Okay, Stuart, firstly, thanks for coming down and teaching a seminar at the USKA Fight Factory. It was a great seminar. I think everybody loved it.
A pleasure. A massive pleasure. Thank you very much for having me down. Seriously, thank you.
Cool. Obviously, you've been involved in the sport for a long time. Can you give us a brief history of where it all began, who you started with, and what you've achieved in the sport so far?
Yeah, sure. I started about when I was 17. My older brother John Lawson started 6 months before me. He started training in King's Cross in Judd Street with a magnificent gym at the time, Mugendo. They've got branches all over the world. They have an incredible technique, and we started training with them for about 4.5 years. We developed really highly in the ranks with them, and we started even teaching for them for a period of time. Then after a while we had slightly different ideas, so we actually broke off, myself, my twin brother, my older brother, and opened up what is nowadays known as Paragon Kickboxing. And that's how I got into it. As for accolades and achievements, I think maybe one of the biggest I've had was in 1997. I won the WACO World Amateur Light Contact Championship. And I also was given best male fighter of the tournament, over 300 competitors, so that I was buzzing for a year off that. And I've won some pro full contact titles and numerous British titles with different organisations, and recently I won the USKA European light continuous title, so I've done reasonably well for someone that's a bit lazy, to be honest. Excellent.
And go back to the Paragon Gym in London, obviously synonymous with quality, and you know what you produce down there, it's second to none. What do you think it attributes to this success? Why do you think it is so successful?
I think we're very critical of ourselves, and I'm talking about myself, my brother, and both our brothers. So even when we've won fights, we've gone back and we're meticulously looking at the technique and thinking, wait a minute, you know, what's with the showboating? Why didn't I bring this hand back? Why didn't I kick like this? And then we were lucky enough to develop our technique through training with a guy called Terry Butwell. He's a really good trainer, very good boxing trainer, and through really good Thai power roundhouses. And we changed our style from this light continuous based style to the full contact. So we've amalgamated full contact and light contact to make something that works really well. And also what we do is, even though we do have a system that we like to think that has really good kicks and punches, we adapt to our students' needs. So if we've got a kicker, we make sure they use their kicks well in the fight. If we know someone's got a really good left hook to the body, we make sure we adapt to each individual as they come. So I mean, Paragon is always evolving. Recently I was training at your gym last year, and I picked up 2 or 3 tips that have actually helped me become a better instructor at my own gym. So you're always learning and evolving with the techniques.
Brilliant. And you say that your style very much so is a style that translates well between light continuous and full contact. Yeah. Not many, from my observation, not many gyms out there have got that. So it becomes harder to find people that you can look to and you know and use as inspiration. Who would you say was your inspiration, both coming up through the ranks as a younger fighter and now? Who do you look out for and get inspiration from now?
Let me see. I mean, that's a difficult question. I mean, there was some great K1 fighters. Ernesto Hoost was a wicked fighter. I mean, like they were doing low kicks, but just their mannerisms and their body techniques. There was some really good fighters. I mean, as for people in this country, I mean, a lot of the guys that I used to train with in Mugendo, there was Keith Wilson, a very good full contact fighter. Really basic with the kicks, solid roundhouses, but brilliant hands. So we learned the hands from him. Then he had like my trainer Raf Nieto, who had all the spins, all the fancy dancing around, amazing sweeps, and you know, he brought a bit of showmanship into the game. But then I mean, you've got, I mean, one of my all-time fighters that I love, it's not even a kickboxer, it's Mike Tyson. Now I know Mike Tyson's got a really mixed background, and he's not a good person to a grander extent, but as his ferocious intent and the way he delivered his punches, and in his early fights when he was 19 or 20, he'd be going bah, bam, bam. I would literally watch his fights and I'd be sitting at home thinking, I'm actually afraid of this guy, and this guy brings fear and amazing technique and just literally one mind, bang, and he was there. So one of my most gifted fighters that I think that translates to all sports would be Mike Tyson, definitely.
Excellent. And in terms of attributes, especially in a fighter, what would you say would be one of the most important attributes to equate to a fighter's success and you know, competitive success?
There's two things you need to be a good fighter. Mental fortitude. Okay, when the going gets tough, when my kick doesn't work or this doesn't work, or you've had 2 or 3 rounds where you've lost every round and you still got to come out and do another 2 or 3 rounds, that is mental fortitude and mental strength. Courage is another very important thing. These are things that without those things you can't go anywhere. But there are other techniques that you need. You need a good chin, you need good heart, you need good skill, good speed, good strength, good stamina, good stability, to add a few more S's to the mix there. To be a good fighter, you need to be well-rounded in many different areas. You can be you can be, as I've mentioned before, you can be a jack of all trades, do a bit of everything, but you've got to be a master at one thing. But primarily, you need to have the fighter's courage. Like what's the latest thing now in the films? The Spartan courage. You know, you either come back on your shield or with it. You know, you need to have the heart of a lion if you want to be a fighter. Simple.
And going back to yourself now as a fighter, still competing at the grand old age of 36, out there still competing at the very highest level as well. What still gives you the drive to still want to compete at this level?
Oh God, I haven't never rehearsed for this question properly. I think the fear now recently, just things aren't as sharp as they used to be, or naturally. I get a bad back when I throw too many spinning kicks. When I was young, I could go out, I could party, I could go and train, I could do everything, and it just came easily. Now I actually have to work for it, and I know that in 2 or 3 years' time, I'm gonna be 40 years old, and I might not be able to do it again. And I've spent 19 years doing it. I want to do what I love and what I'm good at. Make no mistake, it's still the 6 weeks leading up to the fight where I have to diet and I can't eat the food and I've got to get up and do a morning. I don't want to get up and run at 8 o'clock in the morning and then go and teach 4 classes, then training in the afternoon and then do that again. But you know what? I do it, and I do it for the one moment, and that's the moment that the final bell goes in the fight. And whether I win or lose, and most of the time I've won, luckily, but when the final bell goes in the fight, you think, oh, it's over, I can now rest, and you know what, I've accomplished something, and it's another achievement to add. And yeah, I mean, that's a bit of a mixed bag of a response there, but I don't know, I spoke from the heart.
And is there still any goals that you wish to achieve, or are you basically just finishing up the career now? Is it nearing an end? Is it drawing to an end?
I think, yeah, I mean, I could go, I mean, it really depends. Some of my old instructors won their world titles when they were in their late 30s. I think it's coming to an end. I'll still be on the circuit a little bit, do some gradings here and there, but it's not as important to me now to be a world champion or European champion. What's important to me now is having kids, having a mortgage, and actually, believe it or not, I feel like an old man, but watching my students compete and get to their highest level and be able to share what I've got with them. But there's still a little something in the tank. I maybe got a year or 2 left, but it's not the be all and end all anymore for me. You know, life's too important to just spend it on one.
And I mean, wrapping things up, what advice would you give to young fighters? Obviously you're an inspiration for a lot of the fighters out there. A lot of the fighters that you don't even know look up to you as being, you know, a sterling example of what can be achieved in the sport. What advice would you give a young fighter now starting out in his career, or just starting to make a dent at British to world class?
Well, I would suggest that enjoy what you do, put your passion into it, work on your strengths, definitely work on your strengths, because they're going to get you out of a tight spot, but more importantly, work on your weaknesses. If you're weak in a certain area, fix it, because it's just a matter of time. I didn't start off with a very good sidekick as a fighter, but I developed it, and that sidekick worked very well for me. So you need to work on your strengths, but more importantly on your weaknesses. And also, one thing to remember, even if you're a young fighter, trust me, life goes by very quickly. I remember not long ago that I was the 22-year-old world champion, thinking I was on top of the world, and 14 years later I'm 36 and it's gone by in a flash. So if you're going to do it, grab the bull by the horns and take care of action. Yeah, exactly. Seize the moment there and then.
Stuart, thanks again for coming down, giving us a great course, and hopefully we'll have you down many times more in the future.
It will be a pleasure. You've been incredibly helpful and hospitable to me, and I love the way you guys work down here. And you've got a fantastic atmosphere and aura, and I feel really welcome. Thank you very much.